Good Friday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lauren Lemanchek. In Minneapolis this morning, police are investigating a possible double shooting along Nicollet Avenue and West 14th Street in Loring Park. Police say it happened around 11:30 last night. Our photographer at the scene captured footage of bullets and bullet casings on the ground and an ambulance leaving the area. We're still waiting to hear from MPD. We'll bring you more information when we know it. Also this morning, we're getting a clearer timeline of the trial of Vance Belter, the man accused of killing State Senator Melissa Hortman and her husband and critically injuring another lawmaker and his wife. Michelle Beck is in the newsroom with more details.
I just checked the federal court database, and both sides have until February to submit all their papers, including a list of witnesses. Now here's the defendant, Vance Belter, showing up before the judge in his orange jail sweatshirt. He said he's not guilty. He faces 6 charges, including murder charges related to the shootings of 2 Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses. Prosecutors said they have evidence, including thousands of hours of video to make their case, and knew as of the last 24 hours, the earliest we could see a possible trial is next spring. According to prosecutors, however, the trial may have to wait till late next year or even 2027. Another date to watch for is in November. There's a status conference happening then. Prosecutors say they could announce whether they will pursue the death penalty. Back to you.
Michelle, thank you. Pushback today after the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled it is legal for people to carry so-called ghost guns. The decision came down Wednesday, and a campaign is already underway to redefine laws. Raya Katene has more.
In a split decision, the Minnesota Supreme Court this week ruled that privately made guns without serial numbers, commonly known as ghost guns, are legal.
My first response was, there's no way. It can't be possible.
Ramsey County Undersheriff Mike Martin oversees multiple violence prevention units and is paying close attention to the court's ruling.
I realized that we had a gap in our state statutes.
That ruling says Minnesota's law criminalizes possessing a firearm not identified by a serial number only if federal law requires that the firearm have a serial number. But guns without serial numbers, Martin says, are impossible to trace, easy to commit crimes with, and can easily land in the wrong hands.
We are seeing an increase in ghost guns that we're recovering on the street. Most of those are from young kids. I would say we recover 2 or 3 ghost guns a week. And there's been times when we've done search warrants where they were making these guns and selling them and recovered 10, 12 at a time.
Martin says kids and people prohibited from buying and owning guns are ordering the parts online or 3D printing and assembling them at home. It's hard to know, he says, how many ghost guns are currently in the state, but he's seen more and more over the past few years.
If I order a bunch of parts and make 10 guns and sell them to my friends or other people in the neighborhood, and then those guns are used in a crime, we can't trace that back. One ghost gun was used in 22 different incidents in the Twin Cities area, including 2 murders. How do we fix that and prevent this from happening again?
Well, the Gun Control Act was passed more than 50 years ago, requiring guns to have a serial number. In his statement, Representative Novotny says the state Supreme Court's ruling this week ensures that the thousands of Minnesotans who own guns manufactured before that law was passed in 1968 did not become criminals overnight. In Washington today, more than 24 hours after President Trump's so-called reciprocal tariff plan went into effect, the White House is touting the move as an economic boon, while consumers and businesses worry they'll end up paying the bill. This all comes as the Trump administration threatens stiff economic sanctions on Russia that could start after midnight tonight if there's no ceasefire in the war with Ukraine. NBC's Jay Gray has the details.
A full day in, and President Trump celebrating his tariff plan. Import fees on more than 90 countries now set at between 10 and 50%.
We have a country that's the hottest country right now anywhere in the world.
But feeling the heat, perhaps the most right now, consumers.
They're going to hit us very hard.
And business owners.
It doesn't feel like you're standing on solid ground. It's hard to make decisions.
A new CNBC poll evidence of that concern. With prices climbing, the president's approval numbers are falling. on the economy, tariffs, and cost of living.
They're concerned that inflation is rising faster than their incomes. They are negative on tariffs by a 45 to 51, and they see tariffs as hurting workers and raising prices.
With the new tariffs now in place and more on microchips, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals likely on the way, today, another deadline from the White House, the president threatening to increase economic sanctions on Russia if Vladimir Putin doesn't call for a ceasefire in his war with Ukraine by midnight.
It's going to be up to him. We're going to see what he has to say. It's going to be up to him.
Talks between the White House and Kremlin clearly intensifying ahead of what sources say could be a face-to-face meeting between the leaders as early as next week. Jay Gray, NBC News, Washington.
Also in the national headlines this morning, record-breaking heat continues to blast the Southwest with millions under storm alerts. NBC's Dana Griffin reports.
This morning, fire danger escalating. A new wildfire in Southern California quickly exploding overnight. The blaze north of Los Angeles forcing thousands to evacuate. Starting as a brush fire, it grew to more than 1,500 acres in just 5 hours, and now at almost 5,000. The flames and smoke seen from cars and from the air. Overnight, officials warning of the danger, with 14,000 residents under evacuation warnings.
I'll probably stay up most of the night and just come out every hour or so just to see where it's at.
Crews racing to stop the blaze.
Very dry brush, very dry conditions today. It's about 100 degrees out here.
It's one of several dangerous fires in the West, others burning in California and in Colorado. The National Guard joining the effort on 2 different blazes.
Oh, fire making a push north.
The relentless heat wave elevating the fire danger. The temps skyrocketing in Arizona, Phoenix hitting 118 degrees Thursday. Across the region, mobile cooling units and 24/7 centers like this one helping people and their pets escape the sweltering temperatures.
The thermometer says 117, but when you're exposed to the sun, you're talking 130, 135. It's extreme.
Meanwhile, wild weather hitting the Great Plains, lightning striking the ground near Sturgis, South Dakota, and a windstorm knocking down several buildings in Iowa. Back in California, with the Los Angeles area still mourning the losses of those devastating wildfires earlier in the year. First responders racing to contain the newest blaze.
Right now, a Minnesota native is preparing to spend 8 months in space. Anil Menon is a NASA astronaut who's launching on his first mission to the International Space Station next June. Ian Russell talked with him about how he's preparing and what he'll be doing in space.
No matter where life takes you,
I grew up there, and so I have a huge bias.
You always know where home is.
Minnesota was just such a wonderful, beautiful place.
Even if the places life takes you are out of this world.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's a childhood dream. And so it's great to reach something you've worked towards your whole life.
Dreams turned reality starting next summer.
I'm a NASA astronaut who's flying to space in the summer of 2026.
Anil Menon has walked a lot of places on his path through life. He's worked for SpaceX as the company's first flight surgeon, studied at Harvard and Stanford, now assigned to the International Space Station next year.
Learning how to really handle emergencies on the space station and working with my teammates that I would be up there in space.
But before he ever got close to space, he started here.
All that love or passion was really fostered by them.
Anil is born and raised in Minneapolis, graduating from St. Paul Academy and Summit School in 1995.
He clearly had talent in math and science.
George Leiter is one of Anil's former teachers.
Probably in my honors calculus class or something, if I remember correctly.
30 years later, and the former teacher's pride is still on display.
And I was just an absolute space nut. So when I'm building little models of things like that. And so hearing a student of mine doing that's pretty cool.
That love for space translated early. Anil still remembers those lessons in St. Paul.
He had this stack of cards that he had astronauts' signatures.
I just wrote it and I said, could I have autographs? And I got a box of them.
So no matter how far life takes you, even out of this world, never forget what launched you to get there.
In Minnesota, it's like a culture and community. And so I'm super biased, but I'll tell people that it's the best state.
In St. Paul, Ian Russell, KARE 11 News.
Anil says even with his background in medicine, he and all the other astronauts are going to be working more generally on the International Space Station. He says they'll all be doing research up there during their 8-month stay in space. Stick with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.